Hey everybody, this is Perch. Kamala Khan was created by G. Willow Wilson and sort of Sana Amanat, although I don't know. It was that one was always a little unclear. What the creation exactly was. I get the feeling, and there's been lots of interviews on this, but the problem is some of the interviews have changed over time, over like who did what, kind of what the idea was. My feeling is Avenat and some of the people at Marvel at the time were like, we need a Muslim superhero. Ideally, we need a young girl Muslim superhero who can kind of be part of this new generation of heroes. Because around the time this came out, you had Bendis had put Miles Morales in play, but you didn't have, and then there was kind of an initiative for the next couple years to have more new characters. Except a lot of people mistake, or not mistake, but they miss the idea that they were new young characters. They were introducing a lot of teenagers kind of to the Marvel past in a bunch of different fronts. You had the daughter of Vision. You had a bunch of you had a new Wasp. You had the Amadeus Cho character. Cho came a little earlier than that. He was introduced earlier in the Hulk run, but anyway, you had this idea of some new diverse teen characters. Anyway, well, Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, was one of those. And while and Squirrel Girl. Now they're coming out. Now they're coming out of the woodwork here in my mind. But one of the things that I think people forget, probably not if you listen to this channel, because I say it over and over again, but it's an uncomfortable fact. The original title did fairly well. It was not a massive smash success. Unfortunately, and all the comic publishers do this. Marvel does it a little worse than others in that they will overdo light success with like amazing success, and then no one believes the light success. So Miss Marvel was like the number one comic everyone's talking about, and did the same thing for Squirrel Girl and other some other comics, and it wasn't. It was never that. You'd have to really do some weird kind of math. I remember, and well, I don't know if you remember this moment, but there was this narrative that, well, Miss Marvel isn't selling well in comic shops, or it wasn't even that it wasn't selling well because actually it was selling okay. It was like a good mid-range title. And for what it's worth, I'll get this out of the way too. From a reading perspective, it was just a good mid-range title. It heavily reminded me of early Spider-Man, and same kind of wacky villains, same kind of over the top supporting character drama. And Kamal Khan engaged with the world with this kind of wide eyed, experiencing things for the first time. One of the reasons I think the title did well, and frankly was enjoyable to read, is because it was kind of this, you got to see what it meant to be a superhero from the beginning again. And G. Willow Wilson did a very good job of that. It was a good title. Anyway, but it wasn't a number one seller in the comic shop. Even though the comic, the publisher was like, the characters everyone talking about. It is the best, they went over the top. Anyway, so then it became it's actually selling really well in digital. It's outselling everything in digital. And later it turned out, well, that wasn't true either. We did get, it's like, well, actually the digital sales are about the same as the retail sales. So it's like, oh okay. All right. I always wish, places like The Beat and others would go back and be like, hey, we were fed this line and we ran with it and we said it a few times ourselves, and then then it turned out not to exactly be true. I don't know. I would gain so much respect. I understand the argument. Our current president does that a lot. Trump will do the, never show weakness, never admit when you're wrong. This is part of his book. He's very much of a, if you get something wrong, move on, and this is a pretty common philosophy. You see a lot of corporations too. I would have so much more respect if the person's like, hey, you know what? We got it wrong. But, I admit it. We got new data. Didn't mean to mislead anybody. I mean, arguably the people who are saying this narrative did, but, a lot of people who repeated it didn't. And, we'll do better next time. I would gain respect out of that, but I understand, at least if these people to be believed, that's not the way the world works. Anyway, So Kamala Khan went along, and then we kind of at that point, I think Marvel inserted her into too many things, and it lost some of that charm that G. Willow Wilson put into the book of just, hey, here's a hero, here's somebody who's, you went too far too fast, and we kind of lost that, new superhero, wide-eyed wonder kind of thing, which I think Miss Marvel still, she's best when that's who she is. But she was an Inhuman and part of the Inhuman event and part of the time period where Marvel was really trying to make Inhumans the next big thing and downplaying the mutants. And then fast forward several years later, she's killed in Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, you heard that right. And then brought back to life via Krakoa, and then she's a mutant now. They kind of said this a few times, but it didn't. It's like it didn't take. And the whole reason they did this, at least again, if people are to be believed, is that they wanted more of the MCU synergy, and mutants were about to be a big deal. Disney gets access to Fox, and so now it's like, okay, well, let's take this character, and she's getting a Disney Plus series, and let's make her a mutant now, which they mentioned in the Disney Plus series. So of course we have to have corporate synergy. Let's make her a mutant in the comic, which leads me to kind of the big question I've got: why? Why? What does it do for her? They just it was odd as she got resurrected. This was last year, and there at that point they labeled her a mutant, and they said she's a mutant now, and then they did the NYX comic where she's like, now that I'm a mutant, I don't know, my identity is completely different. And again, why? How? You have comics, including written by Wilson and more so written by Mark Waid during the Champions run, where Kamala Khan is like, "Hey, I'm a hero. I'm here to save people. I don't, they're really saying that from the fact that she is a Muslim. The fact that I'm a Muslim doesn't matter. It matters to her, of course, from her spirituality, her faith, but in terms of putting on a superhero suit and saving people, didn't really matter. So now she's a mutant as well." And the talk track around Khan for this year, there's been a lot of pages devoted to that. And so there was just a limited series kind of event where basically Kamala Khan teamed up. Well, not teamed up. That's the wrong word. She was drugged through time by this kind of, personification of Legion. It wasn't David Hayler himself. It was this kind of this personification of Legion. And she was drugged through time to several of the X-Men pivotal moments, like the Krakoa, the Dark Phoenix time period, the Age of Apocalypse, the House of M. Anyway, she was drugged through these big moments, and the X-Men remember her presence in those moments. So it wasn't that she was just there. It's when she went into then a later stop in the timeline, she was the X-Men are like, oh, it's you again, basically. And so it accomplished, this series accomplished a few things. At the very end of the series, she comes out to her parents as, I am a mutant. And it feels a little bit like the comic when you say, I'm accepting that I'm a mutant now. And so it's kind of putting the bow on the status quo change of her being a mutant. Which brings me to a couple questions. Number one, so what? And again, I don't mean that as a angry YouTube commentator troll. I mean, what's changed in this character? Was it meaningful? Did it matter? And as a reader, what was the point of making her a mutant? You get more alignment with the MCU, but honestly, how much does that matter? We had a series that she was in. It was an afterthought in the series. They basically, very briefly mentioned this. She was in the Marvels movie, which, seemed like kind of a wacky adventure that went on that also didn't have big stakes or meaning to the Marvel universe. If you think about the MCU and all the things that get built up there, what moment occurred there other than, Monica Rambeau gets shafted into another dimension, and in theory that's going to matter later for Doom World. But what does Kamala Khan being a mutant have to do with the MCU in any real meaningful way? And then why would you need to go back and reflect it in the comics? I get that the Inhumans experiment is over, but all the same, what did it matter? And in some ways, the I'm a mutant, I hope people accept me started to kind of replace the I'm a Muslim. Like you put a lot of things onto that character. I'm a new hero who's not very experienced, but somehow for a period of my career, they wrote me as a genius, strategic team leader because I wrote fan fiction. I'm not making that up anyway. That was what they did. And I'm an Inhuman, and I'm a mutant, and I'm a Muslim, and I'm a young girl, and I'm a college student. I like there comes a point where like, good Lord, I mean, what? Why? Why all these things? Why so many comic pages have been devoted to shuffling the status quo around? And it's you go back to the G. Willow Wilson series where she was just a new superhero trying to kind of learn, explore her powers, and figure out a way to help the world. And those seem like very innocent days. I miss those days because the current one is just overburdened with so much stuff. But for you, the reader, okay, she's a mutant now. Do you now buy the comic, or like, who was this done for? Was this done for collectors who buy all comics with mutants in them? I don't, at the height of my shop, I didn't have customers like that. I had customers like anything X-Men related, I'll take it. So maybe. And then furthermore, what is the point of having her remembered by the X-Men? Because that's the other status quo change that's kind of in there. And I mean, does Jed McKay or Gail Simone, like Jed McKay over in his book, Cyclops is like, oh man, I remember that time that Kamala Khan came back through time and hung out with us during this period. Like, does this become a plot point? Do you get to do a guest star from Kamala Khan? It's like, oh man, I haven't seen you since the Age of Apocalypse. Like, is that, and why? Yeah, what does that add to the series? We keep having this with Kamala Khan because he already had Mike Bendis and the young Cyclops, and the fact that he was on the Champions with Khan and he remembers her because the memories fused with the older. Like what is going on? Honestly curious. I don't know. I just don't know what was gained by this, and I'm hoping some of you know. And again, MCU synergy that's not a thing to be gained. That there's no gain there. So what is the gain? What did we do for Kamala Khan that makes the character more powerful, more compelling, sells better, more appeals to more fans? What was done exactly? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Hey, I'm trying to think. What other crap could I shill there? Everybody's supposed to. Anyway, whatever. Thanks for listening.